All right, Will, offensively, we talked in recent weeks about this being a potentially more dynamic offense than anything we've seen in South Carolina since Steve Spurrier was racking up 11 wins in 3 consecutive seasons. So, Bryan McClendon, another conversation this week. What did you get from the wide receiver and co-offensive coordinators' statements?
Well, talking about Will Muschamp and maybe seeing some of the flaws that he had at Florida and translating them and making adjustments at South Carolina, I don't think there's a better example of that than with Bryan McClendon in the wide receiver position. You're talking about a position that in Steve Spurrier's final year, Steve Spurrier, a offensive guru, had 2 walk-ons starting at wide receiver, and you fast forward to this past week when Bryan McClendon spoke, and Bryan McClendon talked about the competition they have, the depth they have at that position. You have Deebo Samuel coming back. You have Brian Edwards coming back. Those are certainly the two big names that everybody talks about. But Chavis Dawkins, Randrakis Davis, who didn't play a lot, comes back. Those 4 guys. And now you add on a pretty solid freshman group. Shi Smith has been the talk of fall camp. A lot of players raving about his speed and elusiveness with the ball in his hands. Or Trey Smith, who enrolled early, the big physical 6'4", 230-pound wide receiver, who might be more of a red zone target, and then maybe the most underrated of them all, Chad Terrell. So you're talking about 7 guys there, a lot of guys, and that's not counting a guy like Terry Guger, who's actually already listed as the starter at that position at one of the wide receiver spots. You talk about flipping a position, and that's something Bryan McClendon's very excited about. And when you factor in the tight ends, that's a lot of pass catchers for this offense. And Bryan McClendon very excited. He was asked what his thoughts were on sometimes only being able to play 2 wide receivers. And McClendon was honest. He said, we have so much depth and so many quality players. Guys are going to have to fight for playing time, fight for snaps, whether it's receivers or tight ends, to get on the field because we have so many quality guys. And so I think this is another example of Will Muschamp maybe seeing some mistakes at Florida, having them corrected, and Bryan McClendon doing a fabulous job, one of the most underrated jobs made in the SEC of taking a position at South Carolina that really was lacking talent. And most publications I've seen, Mark, have had South Carolina's wide receiving group ranked in the top 3 in the SEC going into 2017. So it's a very good – they need to prove it, but it's a very, very good unit with a lot of potential.
You know, something else, Will, that may be flying under the radar. I don't know if it's received a whole lot of talk, but we mentioned the names Bryan McClendon and Lance Thompson. They're both in their second years. There has to be a comfort level that's gained in the second year and a transition that is so much more smooth from off season to fall camp than it was that first time around with a new system, different players, a new coach trying to work together in that first go around versus knowing each other, knowing tendencies, knowing just how to work together in terms of players and coach.
No, I'm with you. And again, I think, that goes back to asking Muschamp about how he feels going into his second year and just being more comfortable with your players. And Muschamp even commented in terms of players having a better feel for guys that are out there on the practice field, having sat in the recruiting room, in the living room with the recruits and knowing the players individually. And I think the same thing goes for the staff, what you just said, being able to sit there in the meeting room and understand what exactly Kurt Roper wants, what Will Muschamp expects, how this coach is going to maybe substitute or whatever it may be, but just a more gelled unit in year 2 with a coaching staff that I think has a lot of potential. You need to keep them together for a couple of years to allow them to recruit and kind of build chemistry. You look at the great programs, generally they do that. So I'm with you. I think the coaching staff in year 2 just seems a lot more comfortable as well.
All right, talking up some South Carolina football with Will Gunter. Join him on the all-new early game, 107.5 The Game. And, of course, we provide Gamecocks talk for you on Mark Rogers TV here on YouTube. Subscribe right there and also catch the audio versions at Stitcher, Podbean, and iTunes. Just search Mark Rogers TV. All right, Will, we know we catch you at the end of the week, so you're probably ready to just kind of exhale and let it go for the weekend and have a good time.
Let's see. This weekend, yes, NFL preseason. It was nice. It was nice to have more preseason football the last 2 nights with the Panthers and the Texans and the Bears and the Broncos last night. But, yes, preseason football this weekend, a short vacation next weekend to Charleston. And then we have that first weekend of football games, that interesting little startup weekend with, I think, Oregon State, Colorado State, BYU, Portland State, a couple of the games. So, it's almost upon us, and yes, it's been a long morning, and it will be time for a nap here very shortly.
Will, I don't know if you caught this comment, and I'm hoping it was taken out of context, but apparently Leonard Fournette, after last night's preseason game against the Patriots, made a comment about, I played in the SEC. This is kind of slow. It's kind of easy. Those were the words I saw tweeted on Pro Football Talk and some other sources this morning. So I don't know if you've got a response to that.
Well, I didn't watch the Jaguars and the Patriots last night. It's not that I'm going to say he's wrong, but who did he go against? Did he go against the Patriots starters? Or was he going against the second team? I mean, let's be honest. If you're going against the third and the fourth string, yeah, a lot of those guys are rookies and guys trying to make the roster. It's not like going against the starters of an SEC team each and every week. Leonard Fournette probably should wait until the regular season to be making comments like that, because going against I watched Deshaun Watson on Wednesday night, and Watson looked very good. Going against the backups for the Carolina Panthers and the starters for the Atlanta Falcons might be a little bit different. So, when you look at it that way, maybe Fournette's not wrong, but also Leonard Fournette might want to look against the competition he just went against last night.
Yeah, and he should know from playing as much football as he has, there's a difference in intensity. He's not necessarily lining up with guys just digging in the dirt ready to just level somebody. It's depending on who you're playing against and the intensity of the game at that point. Yeah, he may want to wait about a month before he makes another evaluation. I just thought that was kind of interesting. All right, Will, you have a great weekend. We'll talk to you later.
I appreciate it. Always enjoy it. Take care.